Welcome, everyone, to Stepping Into Your Leadership. I'm your host, Christine Courtney. Our goal here is to give you some actionable takeaways that will help you lead your teams. Thanks for joining us on this leadership journey. Let's get started. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Stepping Into Your Leadership. I'm your host, Christine Courtney, and I am really excited today to have in the studio a brand new voice for our podcast, and somebody that I think is you'll want to hear from. He's super dynamic, interesting, disciplined gentleman who's going to teach us some things. So let me tell you a little bit about him. Our guest today is Dre Baldwin. He's a professional former basketball player turned entrepreneur, author, and leadership coach. After playing 9 years of professional basketball across 8 countries, Dre transitioned from athlete to business owner by doing what he knew best, showing up consistently, doing the work, and telling the truth about what it takes to win. He is the founder of Work on Your Game University. He's authored multiple books on discipline, confidence, and mental toughness. He has published thousands of daily videos and articles helping leaders, entrepreneurs, and professionals build the mindset required for sustained performance. Dre's work centers on one core belief: that talent is never enough. Real leadership is built through discipline, accountability, and the willingness to do the unglamorous work long after motivation fades. Today, he helps individuals and organizations build and develop the habits, thinking, and execution skills needed to perform at a high level consistently and without excuses. Welcome, Dre.
I'm excited to be here, Christine. Thank you for having me on.
This is a very exciting time to have you, I think, at the beginning of the year. This is when this comes out, it'll probably be in January. Well, we'll make sure it's in January because this is the kind of thing that everybody, I think, including myself, needs for setting our new goals and where we're headed for this year. So let's start with the obvious. You have this platform, really. I don't know what else to call it. Like, it's a whole mindset, which is called Work on Your Game. And it's all around you. If you're watching this on YouTube, you guys can see it behind him. Work on your game. So I want you to start there. Like, what does that mean to you so that we all know where you're coming from in this?
Work on Your Game came from my background as an athlete, and not even my professional playing, but actually from YouTube videos. Because when I was playing professionally, mostly outside of the United States, which most basketball fans in America know nothing about, I started putting videos on YouTube, and it was just my training and my workouts, just showing players how to practice and get better. Basically the same stuff that I wish somebody had told me when I was a kid, I was telling them at this point. And those players started asking me for advice and help and tips on getting better. And the main message that I was giving to those players was, yes, you can watch me on YouTube, but at some point you have to turn off YouTube and you have to go work on your game. You have to actually do the stuff that you see me doing if you want to become good. So that was the foundation of it.
But this may be the one and only episode of my podcast that my 21-year-old son listens to. Because he is a D1 soccer player, and I see many of his YouTube videos, and he is often down there in the basement working on his game. So do you think it's changed for you now as an entrepreneur or as a business leader? Do you think that phrase has changed, or is it really still the same? Like the essence of it is still exactly the same for you?
The essence of it is the same. What changes, Christine, is the game itself. So when you're playing basketball, the game is, okay, you have to be conditioned. You have to have the skills with your hands and using the actual basketball. Can you make a shot? Can you dribble the ball? Can you pass? Can you grab a rebound? Can you play defense? That's the game when you're playing basketball. At that time that I was playing, what happened is, and here's the glue between where I was and where we are here today, Christine, the players eventually started asking me for mindset help with their game. It started out me just showing you how to dribble, shoot, how to jump higher so you can dunk, and how to do the move like Kobe Bryant. Then the players started saying, well, Dre, what about the mindset piece? Because, Dre, I want to practice every day like you appear to practice every day, but I don't always feel like practicing. How can I get myself to actually go to the gym and practice? Or I practice all the time, Dre, and I feel like I have the skill when I'm by myself. But when I get on the court in a gym with a bunch of people watching and a bunch of players who I don't know, I don't use my skills the same way that I do when I'm by myself. They seem to have what we call performance anxiety. So the players started asking me questions about discipline and confidence and how do I keep trying? I just got cut from my high school team. I thought I was going to make it this year. I didn't make it. I feel like quitting. What do I do? So I started talking about mental toughness. Or how do I even get started with any of this stuff? How do I just move myself to begin going in a direction that it appears you're going? I want to play in college. I want to play pro. How do I get there? So I started talking personal initiative. So when I started talking about these things, the mental pieces, the players appreciated it a lot, Christine. But here's the main thing that happened that led us to where we are today is that people who didn't play sports started finding those videos. And these were the ones off the court where I was just talking. And I called them the weekly motivation. So every week I would just talk about a mindset piece, discipline, confidence, mental toughness, being ready for your future, being ready for your next opportunity, setting goals, coming back after a setback. And I did the weekly motivation every week for 400 weeks in a row on YouTube. And people who didn't play sports started coming into my world and saying, Dre, I don't play basketball, but that stuff that you're saying about mindset applies to me. So this told me, and I was still playing at this time. I kept playing for another 5 years after this began. This told me that I could take just this piece and this could be my transition piece out of the sports world and into the professional world outside of sports, because I always knew I wanted to do something outside of basketball after basketball. So that's how I knew what the transition would be.
So when you work with leaders or business people on that area of working on your game, what is the equivalent of some examples of things that help them with those mindset issues, you know, that help them to know like, oh, okay, this is how I can approach it? Are there any specific things that come up regularly that you hear like in your work thematically?
Absolutely. And this is the part of the question I didn't answer. So I'm glad you asked that. So the game back then, as I said, was basketball. And then some of the basketball players started asking about mindset. And I would get athletes from other sports who would say, hey, the mindset piece helps me, even though I don't play basketball. Now, in the business world, yes, there are business people who need discipline, confidence, mental toughness, and initiative as well. And specifically, though, when it comes to leaders, one of the biggest things that leaders need or want, or emerging leaders, or those who feel like they're not as effective as they could be as leaders, one of the biggest things they need is what we over here we call the power presence. Because if you already have the skill, you have the knowledge, you have the information, you have the experience, the things that you say or that you write or that you know are already sound. We know they're logically sound and they make sense to someone would just listen to what you say. The problem is, for a lot of people, Christine, or the challenge we'll say, is that it's the if people would listen to what you say part. And when it comes to communication, what a lot of people logically understand, but they don't know how to emotionally apply it, is that 85% of communication is nonverbal. Most communication is not what you say. It's how you say it. It's the context around it. It's the energy around it. It's, do people believe you? Do they trust that what you're saying should be applied, even if what you're saying logically makes sense? Two different people can say the same thing. One of them will be listened to and everybody will follow it and talk as if, oh my God, it's groundbreaking what they just said. Then another person says the same thing and everybody ignores it. What's the difference? It's the atmosphere around the person. How do we feel about this person? How are they presenting themselves? What is their body language? What's their eye contact like? Are they communicating with me at a level at which I can absorb what they're saying? Do I feel like I can trust and follow this person? Do they read as an authority or do they read as somebody who is a subordinate? All of those things, that 85% of communication determines how people process that other 15%. And the challenge, Christine, is that most people, especially really smart people, professionals, they tend to intellectualize everything. They make everything about the 15%. What do I say? How do I say it? What's the script? Let me get AI to help me. All of those things can be great. The problem is if you don't get that 85% right, it doesn't matter what you say in the 15%. And this is the main thing that when I'm working with leaders and professionals today, main thing is the power presence, which is simply a form of communication. Keeping in mind that communication is not just what you say and speak. It is also how you say it, the energy around it, and half of communication, lest we forget, is what everybody else says, what you absorb and what you take in and what you observe. Most communication is not what you put out, is what you take in. And a lot of people seem to not understand that, even though if you ask most people, they would say, oh, yeah, that's right. But they don't behave as if they understand it.
Yeah, that's a good one. I love that, that it's absorbing what you take in. I haven't heard somebody say it in that way, and that's cool. I'm going to get you later for at the end of this. We're going to get at least 3 tips on building our power presence. So that's how we're definitely ending with that, because I'm gonna work on that. But what do you think separates leaders who sustain success versus ones that like burn out or plateau? You know, what do you think is some of the things that make a difference there?
I think one of the biggest things in the world that we're in today is people need to understand that leadership doesn't mean always giving people what they want. And on the contrary, Christine, leadership is about being able to disappoint people at a level at which they can accept.
Oh, okay. Say that again. Say that again. That's a good one. Listen to that, guys.
Leadership is your ability to disappoint people at a level and rate at which they can accept that disappointment.
Okay, you have to explain more because that's fascinating. Keep going.
So just think about anyone listening to this. Think of a superior you ever had, someone who had authority over you, from anywhere from your parents to a school teacher to a sports coach to a boss at work. At times, they're going to say things to you or have you do things that you didn't like or that you didn't want to do. But in the long run, if I ask you, who was your favorite authority figure ever in your life, whether you mentioned a parent, a coach, a teacher, or a boss, guaranteed there were times that they said and did things that you didn't like, that you did not appreciate. You were angry at them, mad at them, pissed off at them, but you still look at them as one of the best. Why is that? It's because they did at times disappoint you or anger you, but it was at a rate at which you could still show up the next day and still listen to them and still follow their lead. And that's what leadership is about. It's about being willing and having the mental toughness yourself, the discipline and the confidence yourself to tell the whole room something that 60% of the room is not going to like what you're about to say. But they'll still show up the next day and still do their job because they understand that being a leader is not about you always appeasing them. And a leader has to accept that. And there are many roles in life, especially when you're in big organizations and when you're working with a lot of people, especially when there's a lot of money involved and a lot of other entities involved. There's no way you can please everybody at the same time. No matter what you do, somebody's going to be mad at you. Somebody's not going to be happy. And a leader has to go into it with the mental toughness and the discipline of understanding there is no way I can please everybody in this room, and I'm okay with that. That's what leadership is really about. And a lot of leaders fail when they incorrectly believe that there's a way that they can please everybody. And you can try, but the problem is you're going to fail.
Interesting. Do you see a lot of people that come to you that have that issue, that often want to please everybody?
Well, they have one of two issues. It's
okay.
At different ends. One end is they try to appease everybody, and the problem is that's impossible. And the thing is, they don't come to me with the personality makeup to which they're able to disappoint people at a level that they can accept. And I have to coach them on, hey, here's how we get that point across. Yes, they're not going to like it completely, but we have to get the point across because this is the job that needs to be done. What's our North Star here, which is achieving the outcome, is not making everybody happy. And again, a leader has to have that mindset. Or they're on the opposite end, where they're a person who's a hard driver and they've made themselves who they are through the effort and the discipline and the mental toughness and the go-getter mindset that they want everybody on their team to have. The reality is, the larger your organization, everybody ain't going to be that. Now, it doesn't matter. Everybody's not going to be that type of person. So you have to figure out, how do I get the people who I have to be the best that they can be and play their role the best that they can play that role, knowing that they're not going to be like me, but I need them to be the best version of them. It's kind of like Michael Jordan. Nobody on the team could be Michael Jordan, but if he can get all his teammates to be the best version of themselves, he can pick up the slack wherever they drop off. He can pick up the rest, but he needs them to be the max of them so that when he does his thing, that's enough for the team to win the game. And that's the mindset that some of the people I work with have, because they used to be in the seats of the people that they're leading. And they're like, well, why is this guy not showing up early like me? He said he wants it, but he's showing up right on time. He's not staying late like I used to. What am I supposed to do with this? Well, the problem is you can't find 10 people like you. There aren't that many of them out there. So how do we get the most out of the people who we do have? So it's either one or the other that I'm dealing with.
Do you find that that's easier to do if people have a background in athletics, in sports? Or is it go across regardless if, let's say, they have because a lot of what you're talking about, I can imagine if you've grown up with coaches, you've grown up with people who have this kind of mindset and are constantly talking to you about this discipline and this kind of approach, I can understand that they would feed off of that relatively easily. But if they didn't have that, do you find that that's ever more difficult, or that this kind of works across people regardless of their background?
Usually it's regardless of the background, Christine. I do get people who come to me because they notice the sports connection. So let's say they played in college or they just like sports. But a lot of people I work with didn't play sports. They don't have a background in sports. They just like the fact that I can translate my sports experience to everyday life. I can communicate it. As I told you, power of presence is all about communication. The key thing, really, Christine, is that a person just has enough life experience in dealing with people, period. Just enough experience just engaging and interacting with humans. For example, I work with a lot of people who are in the tech space. And in the tech space, You are basically computer geeks, and no disrespect to those people, but they're on computers a lot, and they're in their homes, and they often work from home, and you don't really have to engage with humans to be good at your job. You can rise up pretty high without really having a lot of human engagement experience. So with a lot of them, what I'm working with is really just their social skills. It's leadership too, but it's the social skills, because if you don't have good social skills, you will not even be pegged as a potential leader by your company, let alone will you actually become one. Because rising to a leadership position is not just you made the most sales of everybody on the sales force. You may be the best salesperson, but do your superiors see you as someone who can influence and persuade the other salespeople, or are you just a person who's just outperforming them? Because outperforming people and influencing them to be good performers too are two different jobs. And a lot of people don't have both skills. Some people can influence, but they may not even be that great of a salesperson themselves. Some people are great salespeople, but they have no social skills. The leaders are the people who often, the people I work with, usually have a combination of both. And the other thing that you were asking, other thing I want to mention here for the question, is the reason why sports is a good background for people is because when it comes to leadership, because when you're in sports, especially team sports, football, baseball, basketball, hockey, soccer, is that you deal with a lot of different personalities. Every year you're dealing with a locker room full of personalities. Everybody is different. Everybody comes with their own baggage. Everyone has their abilities and they have their strengths and their weaknesses. You have to deal with a leader who's the coach. You see the good, the bad, and the ugly in terms of your teammates, in terms of performances, and in terms of the leadership. If you play enough, you're going to have some bad coaches and some people who you just wouldn't do what they did. And by the time you get into the professional world, well, you understand team dynamics. You understand social skills. You understand communication. You understand you can't talk to everybody the same way. You understand that the performance mandate and that some people fold under that mandate and some people thrive under that mandate. And different people perform different ways in different environments, depending on what they're going against. So the good thing about playing sports is that you see the gamut of how human beings respond to challenge, especially when they're exposed and they can't hide. That's the great thing about sports. Whereas in the business world, you get that too if you have enough experience. But if you come into the business world having played sports, this is one of the reasons why a lot of high performance businesses like hiring athletes, people who play sports in college. Why? Because you have to show up every day, even when you don't feel like it. You got to be confident. You have to perform. You understand competition, and you know how to respond to leadership. You know how to respond to tough coaching. So those are things that every business wants in the people they hire.
Yeah. It's interesting. I was just talking to somebody in one of the businesses that we work with, and he was struggling, a new leader. He actually doesn't even have one direct report yet, but he has a bunch of people on his team that are he's kind of side coaching them, right? And he'll definitely be promoted very soon, but he doesn't have he's not directly responsible for them. And so he was frustrated with how to get them to be better. And so I found out that he was a college hockey player. And so he was the captain of his hockey team. And then once he started talking about what it was like to captain a team, I was like, that's the same. You're not the coach of this team, but you're the captain. So how would you talk to them if you were the captain? And that unlocked something in him that I could see he understood that vocabulary. Like, oh yeah, if guys were late to practice as a captain, I could say something because I was the captain, which is essentially what he is in this team that he is now. He's not the coach. He can't fire or hire them. But he can give them notes. He has power within that organization. I thought, oh, that's really interesting because all of a sudden somebody who had very little confidence with what to do, shifting his mindset back to his sports life, unleashed like, oh, this is who I am deep inside, and this is how it can actually help people and the team. It's not me getting on them or stepping into area I shouldn't be. So, I hadn't thought about, obviously, because I hadn't talked to you yet about this idea of your power presence, but that to me was maybe a way that he was going to start to look at that. Like, how do I unleash this? Because I saw this young man, 26, all of a sudden become way more confident in this, how to approach things. How do leaders, you think, balance then compassion with holding themselves and others to this high standard that you're kind of talking about?
Interesting question. I don't rate compassion. I don't.
Okay.
In leadership, if I'm in a leadership position, I'm not thinking about how do I be compassionate. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm just a jerk and that I walk all over people and leave no footprints on their back. And it's not that I coach other people to do that either, but very rarely in any of my conversations with a coaching client does the word compassion ever come up. Now, what we usually call it, I think what I'm going to refer to here is similar to what you're talking about, is touch or tact or just your affect. Again, as I said earlier, how can you disappoint people at a rate at which they can accept? It has to be some, what you're calling compassion within that. Meaning, I'm going to tell you something disappointing, but I'm going to tell you it in a way that you don't fall to pieces on me and that you're still a useful member of this team, which is what a good coach has to have the ability to do. For example, as I said, when you play team sports, you see the good, bad, and the ugly. In team sports, one thing you learn, if you really pay attention, at least when you look back, you get to notice it, is that some coaches don't have this touch. I played for a coach once who his style of coaching was anytime a player messed up, he would just upbraid you and yell at you and cuss you out in front of the whole team. Now, with some players, you can do that, and they can take it, and they'll be completely fine, and they will actually fix the thing that you're yelling at them about, and they'll play better. You do that to a different player, you completely lose them for the next month. Because you just embarrassed them. They lost face. They lost all their confidence. And you can't talk to everybody. You can't call everybody out in front of the whole room. The same thing with even in group dynamics. There are some people in a group who you can make a joke at their expense and have everybody laughing at them and they can laugh too. But there are some people in that same group who will laugh at that guy. But if you make the same joke about them, they can't take it. Do you understand?
Yeah.
It's very true. So as a coach or a leader, you have to read the room, as we say. And reading the room means you can be talking to one person. You still need to read the room. Who am I talking to? What is their temperature? How much can they take? How much can they not take? How do I need to communicate with this person? Do I need to pull them aside and say, hey, this is okay, but I need you to do it this way? Or can I just yell at them in front of everybody and just tell them exactly how I'm feeling and they can take it and keep it and take it in stride and keep moving and there's no problem whatsoever. It doesn't bother them one bit. A leader must be able to read the room and you have to know how to modulate or what we call calibrate your communication based on the recipient. And if you mess that up, you could be saying all the right things and it'll be landing on deaf ears.
Interesting. Yeah. So, you've lived in both worlds, elite sports, entrepreneurship. Where do you think leaders most misunderstand what high performance actually requires?
Where? When you say where, you mean in a certain industry?
I think everybody will say that they want to be a high performer or that they are a high performer, right? And it might not be what their boss thinks. But what do you think that high performance requires that some people just aren't ready for or just don't understand?
It's a great question. I think the number one thing high performance requires is structure. There has to be a structure that's followed, whether that's the team structure, organizational structure, or just the individual person's structure, because high performance at the professional level, let's go backwards here and let's clear on what a professional is. It's a person who does something as their main paid occupation. So if you're going to get paid for something consistently, that means you must deliver consistently. The issue with motivation is that motivation is not consistent. The way I like to explain it, Christine, is that motivation is a renter and discipline is a buyer. It's like you buy the house versus renting the house. Motivation is a visitor and discipline is a resident. Discipline's always there. And you can't depend on motivation because there'll be days you don't have it. So what does that mean? You're not going to perform? And if you're not performing, who's going to pay you? The answer is nobody. So the key thing when it comes to high performance is you have to instill or ideally find people who already have discipline. Again, this is the reason why professional organizations like athletes, because it's ingrained in us. Or you have to find a way to instill it in people and or what I find, especially in my work doing, let's say, professional speaking, is remind them of that discipline. They need to be reminded of the discipline because it's kind of like brushing your teeth. You can't do it one time. It's over and over again. You have to remind people of what the discipline is about, what your job is about, and find different ways to help them put a label on it. Put a label on the discipline that you need or this energy that I'm feeling or this feeling of not wanting to work. How do I get over this? How do I get past that? So one of the things I like to do is create frameworks around those things so that people can put a title on it. And I find people better deal with things when they can label it and they understand it and can contextualize it rather than just dealing with it and just trying to fight their way through it, because that only works for an exceptional few.
Can you give us one little example of a framework that you have?
Of course.
Okay.
Yes. So we have one called the third day. And third day is
excited about this.
Yeah, it's a simple concept, actually, and everyone will understand it. So it came from my days as a basketball player, but let me explain how I apply it in the business world. So when you start doing something, the first day you're really excited. It's a thing you decided to do, and you're going to be so good, and you see the goals and what you're going to get for it, and you're all fired up, and you do a great job the first day, at least effort-wise. Second day, your energy is a little bit lower, maybe 90% of what it was the first day, but you still give a pretty solid effort. And by the third day, and I don't mean this necessarily 3 days in a row, but metaphorically speaking, by the third day, Christine, you realize that this thing that you signed up for is an actual job. This is not one big party. It is not all fun and games. It is not as easy as it looked in the brochure or on the website, metaphorically speaking, and you realize that, okay, there's some real work I have to do here. There's a grind here. There's a job within this job. And I always tell audiences this, Christine, there is no profession in the world that doesn't have a grind. Professional athlete, author, maintenance man, librarian, school teacher, they all have it. There's a grind. Dog walker. Mom. Yes, mom, exactly. There's a grind no matter what you do. The grass may look greener from the outside looking in, but there's nothing you can sign up for where you're not going to at one point. In sports, we call it hitting the wall. Hitting the wall is when you're in the middle of the season, you realize, oh, man, we still got 50 more games to play here. I'm already tired. How do I show up for the rest of those games? So the third day is all about not the instance of realizing that you've hit the grind. It's the decision that you make when you realize that you've hit the grind. What do you do? And the subtitle of it is the decision that separates the pros from the amateurs. Because the pro is the one who shows up consistently and delivers. And when you show up and deliver consistently, well, what happens? They pay you consistently. An amateur, on the other hand, has the luxury of not showing up because by definition, the amateur is not getting paid. So if they don't feel like showing up, they can just not show up. So where it came from, Christine, was actually I was making those basketball videos on YouTube, and I put out videos every day, and people could see I was in different clothes every day. So it's not like I recorded a bunch of videos one day and just put out the same stuff. And they said, man, how do you get yourself to show up to the gym every day? And they would ask, do you own the gym? Because I would always be in the gym. You wouldn't hear any other basketballs. It'd just be me. They'd say, do you own the gym? Do you rent the gym out? Do you just get there very early? And I explained to them this concept of the third day. The reason why the gym always is empty, besides me, is not because I'm working out in some top secret location that nobody knows about. The gym I work out in, everybody knows about. It's a city-owned facility. It's not some Equinox that costs $200 a month. The gym's literally $10 a month. Anybody could come in there. I was always in there by myself because I just showed up more often than everybody else. And because I showed up so often, that's the reason why it seemed like, quote unquote, every day the gym was empty. It was a straggler maybe once a month, but most of the time it was just me. I just showed up more than everybody. That's what the third day is about. When you just keep showing up, then eventually it sort of becomes your reputation. All right, people start to notice you as the person who shows up all the time. And my brand has really been built around that, honestly. And the thing is, it's not some special talent. The thing about discipline, and the reason why discipline is the foundation of what we do over here, Christine, is that discipline is like that out in the open secret. Everybody knows about it. Everybody knows what it is. Everybody generally understands how it works, yet very few people apply it. And that's where you get the edge. Unless you're in no tech and you have some patented IP, which I don't have. I'm using things that everybody knows about. I'm just using it more than everybody else. And then I put a framework around it. And that's what we come to own, so to speak. So that's what the third day is. That's one of the frameworks.
I love it. I love it. Boy, that gym lost money on you.
Yeah, I would have paid more, yes. They could have charged more.
They do well because all of us sign up and don't go. But they were like, dang, Dre's beating us.
I'm glad you brought that up. I don't know if you noticed, fitness facilities, any gym, LA Fitness, Crunch, Equinox, whatever. People don't notice that if everybody who has a membership to a gym routinely use the gym like 3 times a week, gym will get shut down by the fire marshal because there'd be too many people in there. There's a fact. Gyms make the majority of their money from people who pay but don't go. Yeah.
Oh, I know. That's not you. You're there. No, you're there. You're getting the money's worth. Growing up, I don't know anything about where you grew up or your life, but who was a leader to you growing up?
My parents. So I come from the city of Philadelphia, PA. That's where I'm originally from. And 2 parents at home. And my mother was an educator. She was in early education, and I have 1 sister. So we had a kind of a head start to school because we had an early educator in the house. So my sister became this academic star. She's a college professor to this day. And I became me. And my father, he worked, his 9 to 5 was basically manual labor, like construction. And he was also a musician. So he would play music. He would do music gigs at night. That was like his passion was the music gigs. Now, again, he's in his 60s. So he came up in a time that you couldn't get on YouTube and build a career. Right? So he had his 9 to 5. He did music. And the thing about my parents is my mom was kind of in charge. She set the rules with the kids. She doled out most of the punishments and all that stuff. Checked the homework, went to the parent-teacher meetings and all those things. but she was very like get things done, just on point, and kind of militaristic as some of my cousins would describe her. And my dad, he, as I told you, he did manual labor 9 to 5, but he also did his music gigs at night. So something's got to give. He didn't sleep. So my dad probably slept. He said this to me a few years ago. He said during his career, because he's retired now, he still does the music. He said he would sleep like 4 or 5 hours a night, and he went to work every day. And my parents never preached about, do you see us going to work every day? Do you see us not sleeping? And my dad, for a long time, we didn't even have a car. My parents didn't have a car until I was a consistent car. So I was maybe 16, 17, but they were always going to work. And I just took after that example. They didn't preach about it. They never said, the word discipline was never spoken, but they exhibited discipline. So when I went out into the sports world, neither of my parents are athletes. I'm 4. My dad is like 5'8". My mom's like 5'7". They are biological. We did the tests and everything. They're not athletes, but when I went out into the sports world, Christine, I just took the discipline that I had been shown at home and I applied it to the basketball court. And then when it worked in basketball, then I applied it in business.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for sharing that. Well, as we wrap up, because there's so much more that, well, tell people where they could find you, first of all. Where can people get, if they want more information about you, did they just look you up on YouTube? What's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, I'm on every platform. That Framework, the Third Day, I have a book on it. Can I give it away for free?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so the book's free. I don't know if people can see it on screen, but here it is, The Third Day, The Decision That Separates the Pros from Amateurs, as I said. The book is free. We just ask that you cover the shipping. We'll ship you free copies. Just go to thirddaybook.com, daybook.com. Once you do that, you'll be on my email list, and I email, if you couldn't guess, every day. So you'll be in my world, and then you'll know about all the other stuff we do.
I love it. All right, before we leave, I promised everybody we like to give a lot of tips on this at the end. And can you give us 3 of your tips, the actionable things that people can do right away that can increase their power presence?
Absolutely. And you're limiting me to 3. I can give you 30. But let's do 3.
You give me 5. I'll take 5. Okay, Here we go.
Number 1 is shut off your internal narrative. This is one of the biggest challenges that human beings have. And the one advantage animals have over humans is that animals are always present. They're always on point and they notice everything. Do you have dogs, Christine?
Yes. Okay,
so good, perfect. You know, sometimes when you're about to go out of the house and the dog seems to know that you're either bringing it or not bringing it, even though you didn't say anything. The question is, how does the dog know? Do you know?
Senses? I don't know. It feels. It's just.
Yeah, because it's paying attention. It's paying complete attention. So it can tell by little micro expressions, by your energy, by your presence, if you're bringing the dog or not bringing the dog. Before you tell it, hey, go in the cage or go in your room or wherever you keep the dog, it knows just by your energy because it's always paying complete attention to you. And the dog does not have an internal narrative like humans do. And humans, with our internal narratives, we miss things that are right in our faces because we're thinking about something that has nothing to do with where we are right now in the moment. Often in conversation, you have a conversation with someone who feels like they're not really listening, even though they're looking at you. So number 1, turn off your internal narrative. That'll help you be more present. And people will feel it even when you're listening to them in conversation, that you are fully present in the conversation. That increases your aura. Number 2 is stand up straight with your shoulders back, your head up, your eyes up, and make direct eye contact with people. A lot of people don't do this these days. And you cannot be a leader if you're not doing this because people make a read on you within about 2 seconds of coming into contact with you. And if you're not making eye contact or your body language communicates that you are subordinate in some way or that you are not fully confident in yourself, people read that, they make a judgment about you. And then even though you may say all the right things, they're not hearing you. And they're definitely not hearing you as a leader. So your body language is speaking before your mouth says anything. You've spoken 100 words before you speak. And you can make an imprint on somebody without even talking to them if you carry yourself in the right way. And again, it's just proper posture. So I'm not telling you to do anything out of the ordinary. It's just normal, proper posture. Keep your posture up and make eye contact. Stop looking at your phone also. Let's make that number 3. Stop looking at your phone. It needs to be his own point. Yes. When you are out in public, I want everyone to try this. Just try not looking at your phone about 80% less than you normally do. Do not walk down the street looking at your phone and missing the people who are walking right past you. You're in New York City, so I know this happens to you. Happens in Miami. I'm walking down the street and someone will be looking at their phone and damn near walk right into me because they're not looking. And they won't even look up from their phone. Like in their periphery, they see legs, so they walk around me, but they never look up to see who it was they almost walked into. That might be your next job opportunity. It might be the love of your life, but you won't even look at them because you're looking at your phone. You're checking your Instagram or whatever it is. So stop looking at your phone. When you're out in public, look at your phone less. Put your phone away. Just look around. Just notice people. One thing you're going to notice is that everybody else is on their phone. And secondly, you're going to notice that people notice you more and they feel your energy more when you are present. And understand that when you look down at a phone, even when you're right in front of another person, you disappear. But when you look up, now you're here. And that presence registers. Just being aware of what's going on, you're there. So that's 3. Next thing when it comes to the power presence is breathe into your belly. It's a simple one that everyone's heard, but very few of us do it, and we don't do it habitually. We usually breathe into our rib cage, and that shallow breath, first of all, it takes away the depth of our voices, and it registers as anxiety and stress to our brains. Our brains feel like we're in stress and anxiety when we're breathing shallowly, even if nothing's going wrong. So then our brains are on high alert all the time. This is why by the time it gets to 3:30 in the afternoon, we feel fried mentally because our brain has been on alert all day because of the way we're breathing. Our breathing is leading our brains to fry. It's not that you're doing too much work. When you breathe deep into your belly, first of all, that's a signal to your brain that everything's okay. Because when do you breathe deep into your belly all the time? When you're sleeping. Right. And when you're sleeping, everything's all right. Because if everything wasn't all right, you couldn't fall asleep. So when we sleep, we breathe deep into our bellies and we're completely relaxed. And when you breathe like that, when you're awake, it relaxes your body, calms you down. Your shoulders will melt down. So your shoulders are not up like this. So your shoulders will melt down. You relax. Your voice gets deeper. Your brain gets more oxygen. The brain needs oxygen to operate, to oxygenate your whole body. So the blood gets everywhere to your limbs and all of that. And you just feel more relaxed. And when you're more relaxed, you usually make better decisions, assuming that you're a smart person. You think more clearly when you get oxygen. You don't get oxygen, you die. Okay, so breathe more deep. What's that, 4?
4. Last one, number 5 for today.
Last thing you can do. I'm trying to pick which one is the best. The best one is compression. All right, compression. What does compression mean? It means outputting less but achieving more. And this is what many people could benefit from. The challenges, especially in Western society, especially in America, especially in big cities, is that we are conditioned to think that if we are not efforting, outputting, and doing stuff, that we're somehow cheating the system, cheating the game, and cheating ourselves. So we feel like we always need to be doing something. And I'm not saying don't do anything. I mean, my brand, after all, is literally called Work on Your Game. So I'm not going to tell you do nothing. Compression is about how do we make it half short and twice strong. Don't use 10 words when you can use 5. All right. Don't have a 30-minute meeting when it could be a 5-minute conversation over the phone. Do not over-explain things. Don't explain when you don't need to explain. Do not over-talk. Just saying more words than you need to say. And ask yourself consistently, especially leaders, what is the outcome I'm trying to achieve here? And what's the most effective and efficient way that I can get it done? And one thing that really has to be untaught to a lot of us in Western society is that you do not have to be always doing stuff in order to be being, quote unquote, productive. A lot of people chase productivity. Productivity is not the goal. The goal is effectiveness. You can produce sweat while doing a whole bunch of nothing. Effectiveness is how do I do something that actually moves the situation forward? That's what effective is. You can be, if you look at it, and I'm sure you know about these things, Christine, the studies have been done, that the average CEO gets like an hour or 2 of productive work done every day, of useful work done every day, even though they're working, quote unquote, 8 to 12 hours a day. You can get more effective work done in 2 hours a day than most people get done in 8 hours a day, because we spend most of those 8 hours doing a whole bunch of nonsense just to feel like we're doing something. So compression is about asking what is the most important thing to get done, focusing on getting that done, and then the rest of the stuff you'll find you either can delegate or eliminate. And it's a mindset. It starts with the mindset, then it goes into the skill set and the tactical tools necessary to do it. A lot of people stop themselves, Christine, because they're like, well, I don't have the tools to do that. I can't do that. My boss won't let me. Well, first of all, let's get into the mindset of you actually wanting to do it. Then we'll figure out the tools. The tools come after. The mindset comes first. It's being, then doing, then having.
I love it. All right, everybody, check out Dre Baldwin at Work on Your Game University or thirddaybook.com for his offer of that free book. Just pay for the shipping and it'll help you get more tips and more ways to help your mindset and your success there. Thank you so much, Dre, for joining us.
Thank you, Christine. I appreciate you sharing your platform and for the opportunity.
Thanks, everybody, for listening. I'd like to give a special shout out to our podcast producer, Richard Francisco. Check out our notes for any details. And if you get anything out of this, please follow us. And if you enjoy it, please take a moment to rate us or write a comment. It will mean the world to us. We'd love to hear from you. And if you just can't get enough, follow me on TikTok and check out tlpnyc.com/podcast for more information.